Module 11 Relational Summary Lecture GWP1, The West and the Quest for Utopia. Let's face it, the politics of the West should really be considered the politics of those people who were enslaved and exterminated by those following the politics of the global North. We're talking West Africans torn from their villages and towns and chained in the bowels of slave ships bound further west. Native Americans north and south whose ways of life and extensive trade routes were destroyed by the conquistadors and the cowboys, the pilgrims and the Jesuits. The politics of the West that we want to study are really those of what were to European minds new worlds as they wandered and plundered south and west. Perhaps you're aware that most of the political, economic, social, religious, and ecological observations of the Aztecs and the Maya and the Inca people were well documented in their extensive codices and were made available to the world, but that the Spanish conquistadors deliberately burned and destroyed them. The conquering army's reasoning was simple. If what the libraries of the indigenous civilizations had to say was in any way valuable, then it should already have been found in the Bible, and so wasn't worth saving. And if it wasn't in the Bible, then it was probably of the devil and needed to be destroyed. Such was the political logic of the North at that time. So we don't have an awful lot to go on. Some of indigenous Western political philosophy still made it into our politics of the North, of course. The politician and statesman Sir Thomas More wrote his famous 1516 book Utopia based on reports from explorers to the New World, whose practices he fictionalized but used to critique the policies of the monarchy he served in. Didn't stop him from getting beheaded by King Henry VIII, the Butcher King he was once advisor to. Apparently, the politics of the West, which More found resonant with his Catholic and humanist ideals, were considered treasonous by the bloody monarch of the North and his Bloody Mary bride. The political ideas of the West also directly and deliberately made it into our own American Constitution, used to fight against the tyranny of English kings like Henry. A great PBS documentary entitled How the Iroquois Great Law of Peace Shaped U.S. Democracy details how this happened. It says, quote, "The Iroquois Confederacy, founded by the great peacemaker in 1142, is the oldest living participatory democracy on earth. In 1988, the U.S. Senate paid tribute with a resolution that said, quote, the confederation of the original 13 colonies into one republic was influenced by the political system developed by the Iroquois Confederacy, as were many of the democratic principles which were incorporated into the Constitution itself," end quote. And yet, we don't talk much about the great peacemakers. You probably only know Hiawatha, who organized the Native American Constitution, as a little cartoon boy in one of Disney's silly symphonies. But if anybody belongs up there on Mount Rushmore, it would be him.